I usually don't review documentaries, but Air Force Elite Thunderbirds really surprised me. I thought I was going to watch a cool hour and a half of fighter jets doing insane things in the sky. And yeah, you get that. But what made this work for me is that the documentary makes you understand how terrifyingly precise this job is. Before I get into it, like and follow if you're into movie reviews where we actually say what we think, because apparently documentaries are on the table now. The documentary follows the US Air Force Thunderbirds as they prepare a new team for the 2023 season. Half the pilots are new, they have only a couple of months before certification, and if they don't meet the standard, they don't get to represent the Air Force. That sounds simple until you realize their version of meeting the standard means flying F-16s, sometimes about 45 centimeters apart, at ridiculous speeds. That's what this documentary does really well. It takes something that looks almost effortless from the ground and shows you how much pressure, repetition, trust, and danger is hiding underneath it. The aerial footage is easily one of the best parts. These jets move through formation so tightly that your brain almost refuses to believe people are actually controlling them. But the documentary doesn't just throw pretty airplane shots at you. It explains why the maneuvers are difficult and how a tiny correction can be the difference between a clean formation and disaster. The section about G-forces was especially good. They explain how, at 7, 8, or 9 Gs, blood starts leaving the brain, your peripheral vision disappears, everything can go dark, and if you lose consciousness close to the ground, there may not be enough time to recover. Suddenly, those cool loops stop looking like entertainment and start looking completely insane. I also loved how much the documentary focuses on blind trust. One pilot can be looking almost entirely at the aircraft beside him instead of the horizon, trusting everybody else will be exactly where they're supposed to be. If one person is out of position, everybody can pay for it. And the movie backs that up with history. It brings up the 1982 crash, where 4 Thunderbird pilots went into the ground together, and later the death of Major Stephen Cajun Del Bagno during training in 2018. That changes the whole feeling of the movie. You stop watching these maneuvers like, wow, that looks cool, and start thinking, these people know exactly what can happen if something goes wrong. Primo's training was probably one of my favorite parts because you see somebody struggle. He keeps missing the reunion after the high-altitude bomb maneuver. They review it, correct it, fly it again, and he still isn't getting it. Then when he finally gets it during certification, it feels earned. That's something else I really liked. This documentary understands that elite doesn't mean perfect from day one. These are already some of the best fighter pilots in the Air Force, and demonstration flying still humbles them. Watching them make mistakes made the final performance more impressive. I also appreciated that the movie doesn't pretend the pilots are the entire operation. There are more than 130 people behind these 6 aircraft. Mechanics are working late in the cold. Maintaining machines were one mistake could cost someone their life. That gave the documentary more depth, but this is also where my biggest problem comes in. It shows us the personal sacrifice, but I don't think it goes far enough. There's a moment where one pilot is leaving his family again. His kids are asking if he's staying, and his wife basically tells him, don't die. We hear about spending around 300 days serving, missing weekends, being gone for weeks, and how this kind of job can either break a family or make it stronger. That is fascinating to me. I wanted more of that. I wanted to know what happens when the uniform comes off. What does this career do to a marriage? What does it do to kids when daddy's gone most of the year? What happens mentally after a near miss, where you go home knowing you were inches away from disaster? We get glimpses of those questions, but the documentary usually moves back toward the mission pretty quickly. And I understand why. This is ultimately a documentary about the Thunderbirds and what they represent. But a more balanced look at the cost of becoming this good would have made the inspirational side hit even harder. The biggest thing for me is that the coolest part of this documentary isn't the fighter jets. It's the discipline required to make something this dangerous look easy, even Astro giving up his path toward becoming a NASA astronaut because he believed leading this team could have a bigger impact. It says a lot about the mindset these people have. You don't have to agree with every part of that philosophy to respect that level of commitment. By the time they reach certification, you understand why everybody is emotional. It isn't just 6 pilots doing an air show. It's months of repetition, mistakes, close calls, mechanics working through the night, families making sacrifices, and more than 100 people trying to make 45 minutes in the sky look perfect. So yeah, Air Force Elite, Thunderbirds really surprised me. I came for the aerial footage, and that part absolutely delivered, but I stayed because the documentary made me appreciate the pressure and precision behind what these pilots do. I just wish it had pushed further into the personal consequences of living at that level. For me, this is a solid 7.5 out of 10. Not perfect, and I definitely wanted a more balanced look at the harder side of the Thunderbird life. But this is still a fascinating, incredibly well-shot documentary, and I think it's a must-watch. If you've seen it, tell me what impressed you more, the flying itself or everything behind the scenes that makes it possible.